Hi guys, Grant Stain here, and today I wanted to talk to you about brief taking for websites. In Blam Partners, one of the things that we get asked most about, typically when partners first start, is how to manage the brief taking process. What are the best tips that we can give to help that process run as smoothly as possible? Now, I've been taking briefs for websites for longer than I'd like to admit now, going well back, sort of getting on for 20 years, I would say. So I've had a lot of experience, and I've understood a lot about all the different kinds of clients that you can be dealing with, and the different kinds of personality. Now, typically I split clients up into three different categories, and I adapt my brief taking process dependent on the category that they fall into. And the first category would be a high attention to detail client. Now, typically I find that these might be engineering companies, solicitors, accountants, and these are the kind of people that when you're talking to them about a brief, they really like to get under the bonnet, and they really like to dig down and find out all the detail about the process, and find out all the detail about what they need to provide to you. And this is great because it gives you the opportunity to really make sure that the brief is defined and is expertly put together in a way that can really benefit the designer when they get the brief land on the desk. So from the partner's point of view, it's very important that when you're going through this stage, that you explain fully the processes that you're going to go through and the way that you're going to manage the brief taking process, set deadlines, and then get the points at which the job will then be passed on to the designer, and the fact that that information that goes to the designer is already signed off. Because typically a high attention to detail client is going to spend quite a bit of time trying to get the content right, and typically if it's not fully signed off before it goes through to the designer, you could end up with people that want to go backwards and forwards hundreds of times, really tinkering with all the little details, and this kind of thing can be really time consuming and ultimately end up costing everybody more money and time. So try and get that brief signed off prior to going through to the designer, and that would be my top tip for a high attention to detail client. Also, when it comes to the actual functionality of the website, it's very important to explain as clearly as possible and provide examples to high attention to detail clients exactly how the website is going to perform, and show them so that they've got a very clear expectation and understanding of what it is they're going to achieve. What I often find with websites, and typically, especially now that we have multiple different screen sizes that occur on all sorts of different devices, websites can adapt, as we know, and different things display on different devices. And it's very important to explain to people that this is something that is common throughout all websites. It happens especially for our websites, but also to help them understand that certain features won't always occur on certain devices. Mobile certainly tends to limit some of the features, and just help them understand that that is perfectly normal, and our sites operate in optimum efficiency in order to achieve that. So at the other end of the spectrum, when it comes to the client types, you get the kind of client that has got a low attention to detail. And this can be a good thing or a bad thing. It very much depends. Typically you might find that it's somebody who says, do you know what, I'm not sure what I want, but just pass it on to the designer and see what they come up with, and we'll take it from there. That's a very dangerous client to deal with, I warn you. So the way that I would handle a client like that is to say, well, what we want to try and do is get a good understanding of your style, and a good understanding of the expectations that you've had of the website that we produce. So what would be fantastic is if you could send them some examples of different websites and get them to comment and feedback on the things that they like. And typically this would mean functionality, colours, style, images, all the kind of things that will give us a good impression, a good understanding of the kind of things that they like. You may also need to help them quite a lot with the copy. Now, of course, we've got a copywriting service that you can use, and our copywriter will phone up the client, take the brief, and really drill down on what it is that makes the company tick, and then feed back to them with the copy that gets signed off prior to going onto the brief form and then going through to the designer. So again, it's very important that we do get a full brief that is absolutely signed off before it goes through to the designer, and make sure that the designer gets the best possible chance of getting the design right from the offset. Now, I say it's a double-edged sword because sometimes when you get a client that has got a sort of a bit of a loose attitude to the way that they do the website, quite often they end up being the clients that are absolutely blown away when we actually provide the design. And I would say they're probably more than 50% of websites that we do tend to go that way, whereas they're very excited to see what we've done, and it usually really over eggs the expectations that they had. But even so, particularly when you're new to being a Blam partner, just do your best to get that design as accurate as it can be, and then we can work with that and make sure that we deliver the best job. And then, of course, you've got the bit that's just a bit in between, the clients that are somewhere in between the two. They might have a very clear idea of exactly the kind of website they want to look for, but they haven't got a clue what they want to say in it. Or they might have all the copy pre-written and say, yeah, that's exactly how I want the copy, but we haven't got a clue how we want it to look. So the same rules apply in that, really, in that we try to deliver something that meets their expectations by showing them pre-designed websites or helping them with the copy if that's what's required. Now, throughout all of this, the one thing that I would advise as a Blam partner is to think about your time, because quite often you can over-service a client by spending too much time going backwards and forwards helping them with the brief, and that's when you start to become a marketing consultant. And so do bear in mind that if you are going down that road, that is a chargeable service that you could charge for, and that you don't necessarily have to do it for free. Now, in the early days of being a Blam partner, it's great to do to over-service customers, to make them delighted and help them through the process, so that you become familiar with the process and it really helps you understand how it all works. Now, we like to be really flexible, particularly in the early days when you submit your first proofs. So if you're struggling with a client, we can often actually help you out by speaking to the client directly. We've done that many times when it's the first one or two jobs, but also talk to us about the briefing process. Quite often Blam partners have never sold a website before, and you need help, and you need to understand the process that you need to go through, and understand the different personalities of different clients will react in different ways, and that's why we have a strict process to try and make that whole experience run as smoothly as possible. So I hope that's been helpful to you guys, and I wish you all the best out there with your clients taking briefs, and I look forward to speaking to you again on the next one and seeing all those fully populated, accurate briefs coming through. Thanks very much.